NoDQ Galaxy, we are live. A recap of AEW Dynamite for August 7th, 2024. We have the AEW All-In pay-per-view event coming up in just a few weeks, Wembley Stadium. This week's Dynamite was in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. We had a few travel issues on the show, but pretty much everyone who was advertised made it to Dynamite, including MJF, who had to drive quite the distance to get to North Carolina. He kicked off the show. MJF, the American champion, going against Kyle Fletcher. Chat room, let me know your thoughts on this match. MJF had his flag entrance, the flag with his face on it, representing the 50 stars. That was displayed. You had Will Ospreay watching in the backstage area. MJF's the outside. He got on the mic. He told Kyle Fletcher to lock up like a real man. Now, of course, MJF took a cheap shot at Fletcher. Fletcher was able to fight back. There were some early near falls. Then MJF took control. MJF teased the kangaroo kick, but he got caught with a thrust kick by Fletcher. And then after the commercial break, MJF tried to rest on the outside of the ring. They fought in the crowd a little bit. They got back in the ring. Kyle Fletcher could not finish off MJF. Then MJF regained the upper hand. He targeted the arm. MJF started trash talking. He called Fletcher a wannabe Ospreay and spit in his face. Now, Fletcher did not appreciate this whatsoever. Fletcher got fired up. More near falls. MJF kept kicking out. And at this point, Don Callis, who was on commentary, he came down to the ring. He distracted the referee, threw a screwdriver in the ring. Kyle Fletcher grabbed it and thought about using it. He decided to do the right thing and not use it. Of course, MJF took advantage. MJF with the low blow. And then MJF hit the kangaroo kick, then a brainbuster, and got the 1-2-3 victory. No surprise to anyone. This was a filler match. MJF's not losing before All In. You know the result of this one. Predictability is always, well, not always a bad thing, I was going to say. It's not always a negative, but in this case, I was just waiting for the match to be over. Now, apparently Will Ospreay's door was blocked. MJF continued the attack, and he hit Fletcher with the Dynamite Diamond ring. MJF attacked the referee, went for the Tiger Driver, but finally Will Ospreay was able to make it down to the ring, and the damage had been done. There was blood all over the place, blood on Will Ospreay's white shirt. Angle was all right. MJF beats up Kyle Fletcher. Will Ospreay's upset, looking for revenge now. Standard stuff. Didn't really wow me too much. For an MJF segment, I was certainly not on the edge of my seat. Oh my God, they killed Kyle. Nice comment there, Matthew. We had Mariah May, a squash match, which for some reason went way longer than it needed to. Like they actually had a commercial break for a Mariah May squash match against a woman who I believe wrestles on AEW Dark or whatever third tier show AEW has these days. Mariah May ended up picking up the win very, very decisively, but it was still longer than it needed to be. She hit her and then she had to use Tony Storm's Storm Zero pile driver to send a message. And then afterwards, Mariah May got a gift. It was wrapped up. She revealed it to be a picture of them hugging. But on the back of the picture, it said, "Die, Mariah, die." Maybe it was actually German for the Maria V. Not sure why she was so upset. But anyways, Toni Storm was in the ring. They got into a brawl. Mariah tried to use her shoe, but Toni got the shoe, and then referees came in and broke things up. It was the classic pull-apart brawl. Mariah May gets through the referees and goes after Toni. Toni gets through the referees, goes after Mariah. Let them fight. Let them fight. The boring-ass pull-apart brawl, which is done way too many times. It's up there with the contract signings and the gauntlet matches. Just time filler, in my opinion. Something you come up with when you really don't have anything else. Sometimes it would be best to just do like a little video package. Like, you don't actually need to do this whole segment that they did. Really added nothing to a match that could end up being one of the best, if not the best, women's match in AEW history. Yeah, it was kind of like the Kurt Angle and Edge backstage portrait segment, except not nearly as entertaining. We had a Jack Perry vignette, which, I kid you not, was interrupted by a Taco Bell commercial. And this is for people watching in the United States on TBS. It just cut off. We got a Taco Bell commercial in the middle of this Jack Perry video. And then we had a little Darby Allin promo afterwards, after the commercial break. Then we had the Bad Apple, Brian Keith versus the wrestler Shabata, with the Learning Tree Chris Jericho on commentary. Why is this on Dynamite? This is not Rampage. This is not Ring of Honor. Why is this match on Dynamite? Like, this is a C-tier match on your A show. Anyways, it was fairly competitive, but Shibata did pick up the win with the Iron Claw into an arm submission. Jericho, who was on commentary, was bringing up Dave Meltzer, and Excalibur was like, who? Like, why are we referencing Dave Meltzer on the show? Like, what's the point of it? Like, who are you trying to pop with that? Dave Meltzer? A lot of fans don't like Dave Meltzer, so why do you mention his name? And the people that are popping for it are watching Dynamite no matter what you do. So, like, what does it accomplish? I don't get it. But anyways, after the match was over, we had Big Bill attacking Shibata. So this is something else that AEW overdoes, you know, the post-match attack. Then Jericho got in. He was going to use his FTW title, which is still a thing for whatever reason. And then Hook made his return, came out there and made the save. So there you go. Yeah, didn't really care much about any of this whatsoever. We had Orange Cassidy. Now, since his teammates were unable to make it to North Carolina because of the travel issues, he had some people from North Carolina, some locals, to help him out. More on that in just a couple minutes. We had Renee Paquette talking to Adam Page. Adam Page has been on a losing streak, but he's going to get his redemption, apparently. He said that he will have what he wants. We'll see what happens. Jim Ross interviewed Swerve Strickland. This was a sit-down interview. I was distracted. I don't like to be negative as much as possible, but man, Jim Ross was looking really rough here. All-time greatest color well, play-by-play announcer, occasional color guy, but mostly a play-by-play announcer, greatest of all time. But he shouldn't be on camera. At first, I was like, he shouldn't be doing the commentary, but after watching this, he should not be on camera. He was looking in really bad shape. I hope the guy is okay. Like, I was just feeling very sad watching this segment. Swerve cut a good promo, but I was having a hard time getting invested in it. JR was trying to back up Bryan Danielson, saying it's going to be the toughest match of Swerve's career. But Swerve was questioning Bryan's condition, feeling that Bryan's body is about to give out on him. Like I said, I thought it was good what Swerve was saying, but I just could not get into it, just feeling bad about Jim Ross. We had Orange Cassidy with the local home state guys. We had FTR teaming up with Orange Cassidy, going up against Mordos, the Beast, Roderick Strong, and Roosh. The Kingdom was looking at ringside. It was a back and forth match here, and at one point you had the Kingdom interfering. Thank you for the comment, Blair. I appreciate it. Eventually, things started to break down. We got the hot tag. We had everybody in the ring exchanging the big moves. Orange Cassidy was able to avoid the horns, and then Roosh attempted to fight off FTR, but then he got hit with the orange punch, and then FTR hit the Shatter Machine, got the 1-2-3 victory. And then we had an interruption from the Acclaimed. Max Caster's microphone was not working. Dax got on the mic, said they respected the Acclaimed, but they wanted to fight. And guess what happened? Another pull-apart brawl. So a couple things. First of all, another pull-apart brawl on the same show, really. Second thing, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I could have sworn that the Acclaimed won one of those Eliminator matches to get a title match with the Young Bucks. So why do we have the Acclaimed feuding with FTR? I don't get it. Shouldn't the Acclaimed be getting their title match with the Bucks? Wasn't that something AEW was building up for a couple months? I'm very confused. Somebody enlighten me on why the Acclaimed and FTR are feuding right now. I know FTR is trying to get back to the top, but what's the match for Wembley? Has it even been made clear at this point? I don't know. We had a backstage promo from Christian Cage, and yes, Pac was supposed to be a number one contender as well, and I don't even know what's going on with that either. Christian's group cut a promo hyping up Collision. I guess Christian's going to be a special guest referee coming up on Collision. We had a hologram video package. Tony Khan really wants hologram to be a thing. I mean, the guy's a great luchador, but I don't know. I guess maybe he'll grow on me at some point. We had Camille in a 2-on-1 squash match. She beat up two women, pinned them both at the same time. But this was more about the post-match. We had the CEO, Mercedes Monae, cutting a promo. Crowd was dead silent for this. And they were hot for a good part of the show, but they did not care about Mercedes Monae on the mic. She was interrupted. She had said that the EVP, she thanked them for suspending Britt Baker until All In. That's why Britt Baker was suspended, because she's been crossing the line with Mercedes Monae, right? Tony Schiavone interrupted and said that Tony Khan has lifted the suspension. He can overturn the EVP decisions. And then we had Britt Baker, she was via satellite, and she took a shot at Mercedes. Said Mercedes doesn't get her way. She takes her ball and goes home. A little reference to Mercedes walking out on WWE. That got the biggest reaction of anything in this segment. And Britt vowed to get her hands on Mercedes next week. Segment was fine. It wasn't the worst thing. But yeah, crowd didn't really seem too invested in it for the most part. We had a Bryan Danielson and Swerve Strickland video package. And then we had our main event. Bryan Danielson versus Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett in the main event of Dynamite in 2024. All right, then. Jarrett, who's been a babyface the last few weeks, back to being a heel, at least for this one match. He attacked Bryan Danielson from behind as Bryan was making his entrance, hit him with the guitar. You had Ricky Steamboat for some reason on commentary. I guess because the show was in North Carolina. I suppose if he's a local and he wanted to be on the show, why not have him? But yeah, Jeff Jarrett and Ricky Steamboat in the main event of AEW Dynamite in 2024. What is going on here? But yeah, they had a no DQ match, which I can appreciate. They brawled in the crowd. They fought in the concession stand area. They were using all the various items. Fans were surrounding them. You know, this was maybe the highlight of the show. They got back in the ring after the commercial break. Jeff Jarrett played his biggest hits to try and beat Bryan. He used a steel chair, and then he put on the figure four. Bryan, though, used the chair, literally hit Jarrett with the chair to escape. But then Jarrett gave Bryan the stroke on the chair. Bryan kicked out, and then Jarrett tried to use the sharpshooter, the Owen Hart Enziguri, but none of that worked. He went for the stroke again. Bryan escaped, and then Bryan, with the chair, he used the chair to give Jarrett the running knee, and he picked up the 1-2-3 victory. Another match where there's absolutely no surprise here. Like we all know, Jeff Jarrett is not beating Bryan Danielson en route to All In. Another filler match, just like MJF and Kyle Fletcher. And speaking of filler matches, just wait here. Jeff Jarrett was bleeding from the chair, the running knee with the chair from Bryan. And you had everybody coming in the ring. Ricky Steamboat, Wheeler Yuta was there to check on Bryan. Ricky Steamboat raised both of their hands, and Jarrett and Bryan hugged. This was all Jarrett preparing Bryan for Wembley Stadium. Okay. Then we had Swerve Strickland, the world champion, interrupt. Swerve came out there, said he's not going to hesitate to take the kill shot and end Bryan's career. And he said he wants to showcase his skills before All In. And he challenged Wheeler Yuta to a match on next week's show. So that was the big cliffhanger, buddy. Next week on Dynamite, you can see Swerve Strickland versus Wheeler Yuta. That's a blockbuster match for next week's Dynamite. So check it out next week. That's the big cliffhanger, everybody. And that was Dynamite. Show was boring. Wasn't terrible, but they're cooling off here. They had about a month. Granted, they hot-shotted some stuff. They put MJF versus Will Ospreay on free TV. They did Blood and Guts, which they do every year, to be fair. But after a month of some really good TV, it's kind of fallen off a little bit. And this was very much a skippable show. predictable, boring. Nobody really feels like they have much momentum right now, including MJF, which I really hate to say, as he's been one of my favorite parts of AEW. Ever since the heel turn, he's just felt like he's going in reverse instead of changing up the character a little bit or just reinventing himself. He's gone back a step. Ospreay's Ospreay. It'll be a great match at All In, but yeah, wasn't really feeling this Dynamite. I give it a C. I feel like they're losing steam going into All In, but the show will be awesome. They're going to have a rabid crowd. It's going to be a fun show, but will they actually bring in new viewers? Doesn't look like it at this point. I don't know what they can do. Shane McMahon is like the next carrot that's being dangled. Can Shane McMahon possibly bring in some viewers? The show, the overall AEW brand just feels the coldest it's ever been. Nobody really feels like they have momentum, and it's such a contrast to WWE right now. And I'm sure there's the people out there, oh, you're just hating on AEW, you're being paid by WWE. You know, I've heard it all before, but 3 years ago, I felt like AEW had something going, and they were edging close to WWE, and now they have fallen very far behind. And yes, they got a casino gauntlet match for All In. Get people on the show, that's fine. And I don't even have a problem with the long show on an international pay-per-view because it's early in the day. So if you're going to do the 4-hour shows, hey, do it on the Saturdays at 1 p.m. I'm cool with that. I'm just not a fan of the midnight endings for most of these pay-per-views. Steve-O, to be honest, yes, I have considered it. I stopped doing Collision a while ago, but for the time being, I will keep doing the AEW recaps. I've also thought about doing them on certain weeks when there's a big show. For this one, it was a chore to watch. I give it a C. It was okay, passable, but definitely one of AEW's weaker shows as far as Dynamite goes. So that's all I got for this week. Thank you all for tuning in. Those of you that are left, I appreciate it. I know I'm not the only one who's feeling a bit down on AEW at the moment, but hopefully they can pick things up and All In can be the start of something new. I do think they need a bit of a creative overhaul. I don't know if that means Tony Khan put somebody new to run creative, but I feel like they need some kind of a creative overhaul. We'll see what happens. For now, it is what it is. The show should be great. Maybe the Go Home Dynamite, they'll pick things up a little bit, but that's also the problem of when you have such a gap between pay-per-views. Like, I feel like they peaked a couple weeks ago as far as the hype for All In went, and now it's starting to cool off a bit. There is such a thing as too much TV can actually hurt the build for a pay-per-view. And when there's a long gap between shows, that can hurt. Anyways, guys, take care. Next week, Wheeler Yuta versus Swerve. Yawn, but I'll be back next week. Thank you, guys. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest. Say yes to NoDQ.com, and I will see you all next time.